off, and we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
hi, Steve Gillmor here. This is the Gillmor Gang. Joining us from London is Frank Radice. Welcome, Frank.
Hello, Steve. Hello, gangsters.
How's the weather?
It's not bad, actually. We had blue skies today. It's a little chilly, but it's nice. Now it's dark, though.
Representing the British Isles in Palo Alto is Keith Teare. Welcome, Keith.
Hey, Steve. Hey, gang. Nice to be here on this very wet Friday in Palo Alto.
What's the weather like in Massachusetts, Denis? Not good, huh?
I'm learning how to exhale again. It's in the mid 40s. It's kind of nice for New England.
That's Denis Pombriant.
That would be me.
And rounding out the coasts, the Pacific Northwest is Michael Markman. Welcome, Michael.
Glad to be here. And our weather, by the way, is partially sunny, partially cloudy. And
can you tap that mic?
Pardon me?
Just tap the mic a little bit.
Tap the mic?
Yeah.
I don't know where the mic is.
old reference.
Old reference to previous shows and different backgrounds.
That. Mike's not with us today.
Dave's not here, man.
Yeah. Dave's not here, man. Okay. And of course, our pal Brent Leary is we have multiple condolences for the loss of his mother, and he's hopefully will be coming back to the show shortly. He wrote a beautiful post about her on Facebook for those who imbibe of that service. That means not Denis.
Denis doesn't inhale, but he does smoke.
In the pre-show.
Secondhand smoke.
I don't do Facebook anymore. I don't do Twitter. I'm a happy guy.
Why don't you do Twitter anymore?
I thought they were enabling Trump, and I didn't want to be part of it.
But now that he's off?
Nah.
Did you cancel your cell phone plan as well? Because he has a cell phone.
Yes, TVs too.
I'm being facetious.
As far as I'm concerned, losing social media is like being deprived of rutabaga.
Well, rutabaga is not terrible.
Good rutabaga, maybe, but you can be deprived of it and not miss
not
it.
really. Yeah.
After
It's
Frank,
like cat. It's
after rutabaga, what is the least favorite substance that you don't like?
Marmite.
Vegemite.
What is Vegemite?
It's worse than Marmite.
I don't know what either of them are.
Good. You don't want to. Don't go and discover it.
I have a friend of mine who loves Marmite on toast every single morning. Every time I go stay with him, he tries to get me to eat some of it. I won't go near it.
My wife eats it.
It's got a lot of B vitamins. It is actually slightly cooked yeast from the brewing process.
Thank you. An actual fact at 10:02 or whatever.
What is people's aversion and objection based on? The smell, the name, the color?
It's an acquired taste. It is salty.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste. If you go into, have you ever been in a place where they're making alcohol and you get that yeasty smell before it actually becomes the alcohol?
Yes.
So you get that smell. which is okay for the first couple, to me anyway, okay for the first minute or so. Then after that, it becomes overpowering. But you add that to this salty, kind of chewy, horrible taste. And the two of those things combined. So yeah, Steve, this is important stuff.
The key is the reduction. It's a reduction. So it's like a treacly, thick, disgusting substance.
Horrible.
I'll tell you, it looks really good though. It looks like if you slopped it on some bread, it would really taste good. The problem is it's absolutely not what it looks like.
Yep. Reminds me of the Beach Boys.
I don't
Wait a
get-
minute, you're gonna explain that. I don't get that either. Is it they don't sound as good as they look, or
No,
what?
they look good, but then you listen to them.
You're kidding me.
I don't know.
right?
I heard the Beach Boys. I heard them at a Grammy show live, and they were incredible. I actually was not a big Beach Boys fan back in the '60s when they were playing. I just didn't like surf music, but they were unbelievably good. It blew me away. So I was a complete convert and started listening to, their last, I guess one of their last albums was very complicated. Yeah, incredibly complicated music if you really listen to it.
Yeah.
You've got to be American to like them. You can't.
You think? I don't
I
know.
think so.
Well, they were Southern California, highly testosterone laden. Their songs were about girls,
Cars.
and one or two other things, but mostly girls and cars. And it would seem to me, they appealed to me. I would imagine they appealed to a big cross section of the world. It was, yeah, they sang about having
Good vibrations. Good vibrations.
Hey, Keith, are you able to send out a watch party? Because I'm not.
I did. I actually sent one out.
For some reason, I'm not. I don't see the option for watch party coming up here. That's all right.
You
Because as long
have
as
to do it if you start a new post, as if you're going to post to Facebook. Then there's those three dots. If you click on those three dots, they've buried watch party inside there.
Why did they do that? All right. So, guys, I have a question. If you don't mind, Steve, it's not about music or the Beach Boys or Marmite.
Paying for nothing. So go on.
So, as I've mentioned before, I sometimes use Quora just to see if there's stuff that is worth having a chat about when we do the show.
There's
and today,
a waste of time.
Well, today I asked.
Or the endless, bottomless pit.
Yes, it is, but I did have a good question, and it received a whole lot of answers that weren't unexpected. But and it was should Cruz and Hawley be either expelled from the Senate or censured, or what could happen to them? And I of course got the cross section of absolutely nothing. They did nothing wrong. They were absolutely perfect. They should be drawn and quartered. I just am curious what the gang thinks about that.
Good question.
Well, we'll see about whether it's a good question, but what's the answer?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yes, we will.
Michael.
Okay.
Are we done? Is that it?
No, it's just
Let's see what that is.
the Mike Hammer singers provided backing vocals on which Beatles song? All You Need Is Love, I Am the Walrus, Yellow Submarine, Hey Jude.
Yellow Submarine.
Hey Jude.
Maxwell Silverhammer an option?
No.
That would have been a good one.
What was the first one? What's the first choice, Steve?
You're all losers. The correct answer is I Am the Walrus.
Okay.
Cuckoo Kajou.
Well,
Buh.
I just figured that Hey Jude had the biggest chorus, so everybody came into the studio to sing on that. So I figured.
If Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was a choice, I would have chosen that for the same reason.
Have you seen that documentary, the new documentary that about?
The clips.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Looks really good.
Yeah, I saw a comparison, an A and B of that footage, or at least one scene of it, with the original Let It Be footage. And it looks like the old footage. First of all, it was a very small aspect of the show.
Yeah, not 16:9.
Yeah, no, not even
Yeah.
close. And of course, the sound has been enormously improved. It was like looking at the old version. Looked like it was shot through a gauze. I mean, it looked terrible.
Yeah.
And the new version looks pretty good.
I saw the
My guess
chase.
is it was old 16mm footage that probably had deteriorated, because I saw a bunch of the shots of the 56,000 feet of film apparently that they had, and but you know, deteriorated film can be renewed somewhat, and so, but I bet you that's what it was. Anyway, sorry, Keith, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I saw the Shea Stadium concert 4K version where they've restored it to 4K, and it is really unbelievable what they can do now to take an old film-based medium and turn it into a high-quality digital medium.
Well, Peter Jackson, didn't he do that with footage from World War I?
Yes, it's an amazing, amazing film. Have you seen it?
Oh, wow, yeah.
What is it called, Michael?
The 1917 movie?
No, it's not the 1917 movie. My memory fails. Google will help me.
It's real footage. It's old black and white, jerky, grainy, horrible footage from World War I that he colorized.
They Shall Not Grow Old is the name of it.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So he did a number of remarkable things. For one thing, there's with old hand crank films, there's no steady tempo.
Hang on one second. Keith?
Yeah.
Can you mute, please? Because your AGC is going in and out.
Okay.
Until that thing goes by.
He did a few technical things. One is he interpolated frames. In a lot of the old films, they're cranked at a much lower frame rate than talking films. And usually when they're projected, everybody looks like they're racing and running in a bizarre way. And that's because we're projecting them at a higher frame rate than they were shot at. So he actually interpolated the missing frames instead of just, pausing. Sometimes people slow down old footage by repeating frames. He interpolated them. The other thing that's amazing that he did was to get lip readers, forensic lip readers, to figure out what the guys on screen were saying. So all of the speech that you hear is recreated in their authentic accents and their words. And the final amazing thing was that he discovered a trove of interviews that had been done at the BBC from survivors of World War I, reminiscing about their memory. So the soundtrack is all authentic narration from people who participated in the war. And the sounds and the Foley, the recreation of the sounds of people marching, of tanks rolling, of shells going off, is done the way you would do a modern film.
Yeah.
And it all comes to life in the most compelling way.
Yeah, and I imagine that, a lot of what he learned from doing that, or he applied to that, to the Beatles movie and not the recreation, but the restoration of the old footage. It certainly wouldn't need what the World War I footage needed. I mean, you're right, that footage was probably shot at 16 or 18 frames per second. Modern sound after that was at 24 frames per second, and then it went up to 30 frames per second. And now when he shoots a film and uses film, he's shooting at 120 frames per second for sync sound, so that and for the MOS stuff, and it just makes for a higher quality film in its when it's played back. And I understand that he also increased the frame rate on the old footage from World War I. But just some amazing technology went into taking really old film and making it look like brand new stuff.
MOS,
But that has nothing.
MOS
I'm sorry, go ahead.
for mid-out sound.
Mid-out sound.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
So, but that has nothing to do with Cruz and Hawley.
There you go.
Well, actually, I think that instead of being suspended or censured, they're going to have the frames interpolated
Okay.
in between their denials of culpability.
There you go. That's how you kind of turned that corner without actually turning the corner, which is, I just read an interesting item that a friend of mine just posted about when the Trumps left the White House. Before they left, they fired the ushers so that when Biden moved in, there was no one to help.
Yes, that scene was really incredible. They go up to the front door of the White House, and they stand there for a couple, maybe 30 seconds, waiting for somebody to come out and open the door.
That
And
explains it.
eventually they just opened it themselves, because the tradition is that the outgoing, and I love that word, president opens the door and welcomes them.
Open the door.
But he wasn't there. He was in Mar-a-Lago.
Yes, Mar-a-Lago.
Doesn't it feel kind of strange to talk about that guy at this point?
Oh, it does. I'm very reluctant to.
Yeah, I get it. I made a promise on my newsletter that I would never have an all 45 newsletter again, ever. Period. The end. That's it.
Although
But that doesn't.
I hope he doesn't quite go into the memory hole, because there's still a lot of cleanup to be done, and a record needs to be made. I just don't want to listen to it.
The memory hole is something that I'm actually worried about from the 6th, and the distance that could be put between the 6th and the time there is a trial in the Senate. I'm hoping that there is no memory hole, but I can't. I just for some reason feel like there will be.
It's a two-edged sword. The farther away you go, the less searing is the memory, but also the farther away you go, the more details come out. So
yeah.
George Bush, the second George Bush, is a good example of that, because during the Iraq War, I don't know about you guys, but I just couldn't stand the guy. And now, this week, and a lot in the last few years, he's a real statesman, and he's somebody you actually respect. But I don't actually respect him. If I remember what he did, then I really don't like him anymore.
It's funny that I feel the same way about Colin Powell. But on the other hand, I feel like Colin Powell sort of had to do what he did because he was the Secretary of State, and he was told what to do, and he didn't do what he probably knew he should do, which was to not say that there were WMD in Iraq. Instead, he did, but now he's looked at as a great statesman.
Has that been ascertained that he was aware that there were none?
I don't know.
Aware of that.
I don't know.
On the basis of what he and others had been told.
Certainly, Tony Blair. It's been shown that Tony Blair was aware.
Yeah, and he has said that he knew that he made a mistake. I mean, I think that implies that he had awareness, but you're right. I don't think it's been absolutely. It's been an absolute that he knew that there were no WMD. But as Keith said, Tony Blair has already said he knew.
He knew. I've seen quotes from him about that, and I've also seen semi-detailed discussion of how they prepared that presentation, and Powell went through the presentation as it was developed for him, and started pulling things out of it. He said, "We can't say this. We can't say this. We can't say." He knew that the presentation was chock full of misrepresentations and outright lies. And yet he went to the United Nations and gave what he considered to be a skinnier version that was almost true.
I met when I was working in Texas for the Obama primary campaign. I met someone who, before he had seen the light, had worked for Bush as governor of Texas and Karl Rove. And one of the assignments he had was to write a paper justifying an invasion of Iraq.
Wow.
Anyway, so the memory hole does happen. You do end up, unless you remind yourself, you end up looking at people and forgetting what they did.
Yeah,
Well-
but Keith, we have video.
Yeah.
We have video of January 6th. Not only that, but not all of the video has been released. Every day or two, you get some new wrinkle in the video, some new shots of perpetrators doing bizarre, bad things, and identified later as living in this state or that state or whatever. There's a real trove of information that the public has not been treated to yet, and which will come out, I think, in the trial. It's not going to be
And
pretty.
part of the trove of information that comes out has to do with the arrests and court appearances of what is it up to now? 300 people that have been arrested. That is going to keep hammering us.
And
To me,
NPR reported today that 1 in 5 were either active or former military, which I find interesting.
I saw that. The thing that's interesting to me is Trump is such an outlier that you would imagine that the layers that a president would normally have between himself or herself and, activists on the street, there'd be many, many layers, and the president would have plausible deniability always because of those layers. But in his case, I doubt there are any layers. I'm going to guess it's like direct from him to some dude having an explicit conversation about what to do.
Well, there is, as Michael says, though, there is video. Or was that Dennis? There's video.
Well, there's video of the end result, but the key is to be able to draw a line legally between him and what happened that is more than he was sounding off.
Well, I'm gonna walk with you down to the Capitol. I'll be there with you. You got to show.
I doubt even that is legally going to get him convicted, because walking to the Capitol isn't a crime.
And he didn't.
No, this isn't a legal proceeding.
That's right.
This is not a legal proceeding. This is a political proceeding. Not only that, we've got months of tweets and other pronouncements by Donald Trump inviting people to come to DC. It will be wild was one tweet. There's a lot of evidence that puts Trump in the theater with a bomb.
So I would say, Dennis, that you're right. It's political, and there is enough evidence that if it was a Russian or Chinese show trial, they'd convict. But because it's political, it's kind of a show trial, even if you approve of it.
Exactly. We saw that last time.
Yeah.
Well, you might
I agree. Last time we did.
You still might. What do you need? 16 senators to
67.
7? That's it.
17.
17. It's 50
17.
Democrats plus 17 will get you up to 67.
Which what do you guys think? I mean, it seems too high a number for me. I can't see it happening.
Okay, so that's the poll. Starting with Keith, yes or no? Is it going to happen?
I don't think they get 17 Republicans.
Okay, Frank.
I don't think they'll get 17 Republicans either.
Okay, Dennis?
I'm on a hot streak. I say yes. I say yes because I think they would all like to make sure that Trump doesn't run in 24.
And Michael?
I'm kind of on the bubble about it. It's a hard get, but I think it might be doable. Depends on how much the Republicans want to be rid of Trump.
Yeah.
Do you see what happened to, gosh, I'm blanking on her name, in the House, who voted for the impeachment? The Republican woman, Cheney.
Yeah.
Oh, Liz Cheney.
Liz Cheney, have you seen that the base has already put up a candidate to remove her from her position?
Yes.
So what? She's got plenty of time.
It kind of comes back to the Hawley question. It's a good moment. It's really, the question really is, will the Republican Party become Cruz and Hawley's party, or will it become Cheney's party?
Well,
There you go. That's it. You brought it right back around to the important question.
that's a very good question. And
Or will it split? I think that's the other option.
the thing you got to keep in mind is that if it becomes Cruz and Hawley's party, the Republicans won't win another election for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know, I said yes because I want it to be true, but now my brain kicks in. You know, the gap between the two sides is quite thin. It's what, it's 5 or 6 million votes.
Yeah, but you know, I think the way to think about it is, where do the more sensible Republicans go? Do they go with the base? Probably not. They go to the Democrats. You could see a swelling of the Democratic ranks.
You might be being over optimistic about the human spirit amongst Republicans there.
What are you saying? They're not human?
Well, they spent the last 4 years turning a blind eye to the most outrageous things we can imagine. So why would they change now?
We're talking about.
Let's not forget, somebody wanted to bring a handgun onto the floor of the just yesterday, I think it was, and walked around the metal detector to do that. I mean, that's just plain insanity.
Yep.
What are they going to be, the teacher in the room who's armed? I mean, it's just that's just insanity.
Would they have been allowed? Would they have been allowed to?
I don't think so. Somebody should invoke the insanity clause.
Oh, you can't fool me. There's no sanity clause.
No Santa Claus?
I had to throw that in there. I did that for Steve.
Yeah,
I just wonder whether sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I just wonder whether the normal conservatives who are Republicans have, at the level of each local area, the, in quotes, troops to win back their party. Because the mechanics of how you would win it back, involve people. And you just wonder whether, once you get down to the street level and the committee rooms, whether they have the ability to do that.
Oh, I think they have the ability more than the Democrats would. The Republicans have just come off of a multi-decade party building process where they ran for school board, they ran for county commissioner, they ran all kinds of things to build up the party. These people know how to do that.
Yeah. And the more I listen to, bites from pretty staunch Republicans online, the more I am afraid that is exactly what's going to happen. That because they have built this up, and because there's an absoluteness to their devotion to the party, that I don't, you don't get that. I don't believe you don't get that with the Democrats. And that sort of radicalized absolution to the party, or absolute devotion to the party, is something that is pretty hard to fight. It's cult-like. It's almost religious.
The scary thing this morning on Morning Joe was that I hadn't heard this anywhere else, and I'd love confirmation that it's true, is apparently some of the street Republicans were describing the armed forces at the inauguration as Democrat troops, not American troops, which is kind of a Civil War statement, really.
Yeah.
Well, what I think is that there's been so much indoctrination of the former president's way of doing things that we are still in the throes of not realizing that they don't have as much power as they think they do. And
Well-
I think that the linchpin of this is going to be what happens when McConnell votes. And we'll do another poll in just a second. I think McConnell is trying to decide whether or not he has a career moving forward. And if he does, he is a superb tactician without any real support within the volume of the Republican Party. So I think that he will decide to he will avoid conviction vote. What does everybody else think? Let's get the poll first.
So what is the
Repeat
question?
the question?
Is he going to vote for conviction or not? Yes or no?
Will McConnell vote for conviction?
Correct.
Is McConnell a lawyer? Is he a lawyer by background?
I don't know. Good question.
Because if he's a lawyer, I'm going to say no, he won't. But if he's a
But again,
politician,
it's a political trial. It's not a,
And-
it's not a
and-
legal
but
trial.
this-
I mean,
This is, the Gillmor gang, and the Gillmor
Yeah.
is asking, what do you think is going to happen? Not,
he won't vote for conviction. That's
okay.
my vote.
Okay, so that's 1-2-2-0. The zeros, Keith, you tried to FUD
Or
this.
I could, I could vote like Brent and vote for Brent and say, I fear
Fear.
fear that he votes not for conviction.
Brent, when pinned down, said that Ossoff was going to win, and
Yeah.
therefore the Democrats would gain control. He's frankly, I think, the only one who was right on this
Yeah.
show.
I'm
You
going to
vote-
say he will vote for conviction.
Okay, good. So that's 2-1 now. Dennis?
I think the thing to keep in mind about McConnell is that he's power hungry and he's more transactional than Trump. He's used Trump as much as he's going to be able to, and I think he's ready to clear the decks and to give his party the best shot at winning the 24 election, which means not having Trump sniping at everybody. So I think McConnell will vote yes if he's sure that 16 other Republicans will go with him. I think the ultimate question is, can he wrangle 16 other votes?
Well, would him voting
If it's
yes
16,
make them move with him?
No, I don't think there's 17, even if I think he'll vote yes, but there won't be 17.
But this is what I was trying to get at before, which is there's this, what I consider to be a myth, that Trump is omnipotent. I think that every day that he's not in office, his leverage diminishes.
Every day he's
So-
on Twitter.
Yeah,
He's
but
omnipotent up to a point.
But I think that's true,
I don't
Steve.
think so. I mean, the citations that you've given are that Liz Cheney is being primaried. She was being primaried, from the second that she came out that way. Is she going to lose her position in the party? I don't think so.
No.
I think she's going to retain her leadership position.
Yeah, otherwise the party eats itself and is ineffectual
Right.
forever.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
let me refocus this, please. Dennis, are you saying 3-1? Is it you're saying yes, he will vote for conviction?
I'm saying yes.
Okay, so that's 3-1. Michael,
that's 2-2, 2-2,
2-2.
isn't it?
no.
Well, I
Oh,
think
you're right. It's 2-2. Michael, you're the tiebreaker.
McConnell's overwhelming goal is to regain power. He wants his eye is on the 2022 senatorial races, and beyond that on the 2024 races for the Senate and the White House. He is a poll watcher. He counts his caucus, and he's going to do what he thinks is going to help him get power. The question isn't so much Trump as the loyalty of Trump's base. And if you're right that the loyalty of Trump's base is diminishing, I think he'll add that into his calculations. It will be a bold move for him to vote for conviction. It's very hard for anyone in the party of the president who is on trial to vote to convict.
So what do you think?
In this particular case, make it easier than ever. Does it make it easy enough? I'm not quite sure, but I think that I'm going to vote for McConnell votes for conviction, and I say that without too much conviction.
Too many convictions there.
Okay, so the consensus is that he will vote for conviction. I'll stick with my vote, which is
I thought Michael tipped it the other way, made it 3-2.
Oh, Michael said he'd convict.
Yeah.
Therefore,
Oh,
people who are saying yes, he will vote for conviction, raise your hand.
okay.
1, 2, 3. People saying that he won't,
Nope.
raise your hand.
CNN is reporting now that Republicans are quietly lobbying McConnell to vote to convict. That's an interesting story. Don't know how
if
many.
you read the story, if you read the story, there's a lot of people who don't want to be quoted, and
Yeah.
there's the group and there's that group. It still comes down to whether or not, as I think Denis and Michael said, whether or not McConnell thinks that he can get away with voting for conviction.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
if you
believe
take it,
Tina
I
wants.
think that's a great way to phrase it. I think he leans to conviction, but he's not sure whether it will help him or damage him.
Yeah, but you're
Well,
trying,
it's interesting though that he.
So, when you say it, can he get away with voting for conviction? I think that phrases it perfectly.
Well, do you think that his holding off until February plays into I think it was Keith earlier who said, as part of the memory hole, there is the other side of the memory hole is the longer it takes, the more stuff will come out. Do you think that's part of his calculus?
if there is stuff to come out, I mean, that's really an investigative challenge. It's whether you can find it and whether it does come out. But I think this discussion really is about whether the rump of the Republican Party are the Trumpists or whether the rump of the Republican Party are the McConnellists. When this fight happens, which it probably already is, there'll be a rump, and what survives as the larger group will either be from the Trumpist side or from the McConnell side. And I definitely don't know who has the upper hand there, but somebody in the Republican Party has enough knowledge that if you said to them, what is the balance of power in Atlanta, 3rd district, they'd know. They'd know every single district, and they'd know what the ground war would have to be to win. I have no clue, but my worst fear is that the Trumpists would win the ground war. and the Republican Party rump would become the Joe Scarboroughs.
Well, there's one other thing to consider, or there are a lot of things to consider, but to go to the next concentric circle, a lot of deep-pocketed donors have backed away from PACs and super PACs that support the Republican Party. And they don't have a vote in the Senate, but they do. And we should be looking at reading tea leaves from them as we can.
Yeah, but the Tea Party. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I think that what Denis is saying leads to what actually will happen, which is they will not vote to convict. The Senate will not vote to convict. If you work backwards from that, McConnell will not vote to convict. He will use some sort of, excuse to basically say he did all these bad things, but it's not sufficient for conviction and removal. Among other reasons, is he's already gone.
The already gone theory is something that Republicans are trying to coalesce around.
Right.
It's a way of avoiding the answer.
But it's kind of weak. Going to what Denis just said, once they've done that, then the question is, have they damaged him enough to remove him as a candidate? And that's a separate question.
I don't think they can damage him enough. He's like a werewolf. The only way you're going to get rid of him is to drive a stake through his heart.
Metaphorically.
No.
That's a vampire.
Metaphorically.
That's a vampire.
And just for the record, we are not recommending that course of action to anybody out there.
No.
Because
But that
John Maloney finds out when he does the comedy routine on Saturday Night Live, not mentioning Trump, the Secret Service still gives him a call. So
George Lopez today was talking about how he had done something not too dissimilar and received a personal invitation by the Secret Service to have a meeting at his house.
So, Frank, you have to go in about 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's, yes, I just saw that. So what I'm suggesting may well be true is that they're going to lose the war, the ones that want McConnell to vote for conviction and give them cover. They're going to lose that war. They're going to lose that battle, but they're going to win the war, which is maybe the 14th Amendment. There's going to be some vote that suggests that for whatever reasons, Trump as an individual is being neutered.
Well, don't forget, there's also the Justice Department and indictments. I said earlier, the whole Senate thing is a political process. It does not prevent or preclude the Justice Department from taking him into court and charging him with sedition. And that's a whole different kettle of fish. That's a felony. If he's convicted, many of the same penalties apply. As a felon, he wouldn't be able to run for any office. He might still receive his pension, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I think the key is whether the Republican Party can have a credible candidate to stand against. Let's just imagine it would be Kamala Harris, and Trump. I don't think Trump will be a credible candidate 4 years from now.
Yeah,
so if he stands, he'll lose.
I don't think so either. I mean, it's remarkable to think about what Trump's image and brand was 4 years ago. It was a lie. It was a false projection, but it was successful businessman. It was rich beyond the dreams of avarice. And now he doesn't have that anymore. He's a failure. We see that his business wasn't. He's not running. He's not running off the reality TV show that was projected on The Apprentice. He's running off his 4 years in the presidency. And
yeah. And to Dennis's point, it's only going to get worse. The next 2 or 3 years, there's going to be a lot of stuff will happen to him.
I find it interesting that you mentioned that there are any other avenues other than conviction towards a felony. That there are any other avenues that might accomplish what that, as you said, Steve, wins the war but loses the battle, wins the war. That
Correct.
there are any
That's
other.
what I was trying to say.
There's the state courts in places like New York. I mean, Cyrus Vance and Letitia James both have a lot of things they want to talk to the Trump organization about.
Yeah, I don't think any of that is going to move the needle. I really don't.
Well, how about DC?
Well, well, you know what, Steve? I would say that too, except for the fact that if you look at the RICO statute and you look at what Trump has done, there's a lot of congruity. I wrote a piece on this 6 months ago.
I think that all that plays in his hands to the notion that it's a vast left-wing conspiracy. I think that the strength that that Biden has right now is to stay out of it as long as possible.
Yeah.
And then, as I've said before, I think that he'll pardon him.
He's certainly done that all along and done a good job of it.
If he pardons,
Rope-a-dope.
if he pardons him, there's an implicit recognition of pardonable acts. And
there's nothing. There shouldn't be anything implicit about it. He should plead the thing out.
Well, this is where politics and due process are kind of two different worlds. In the world of politics, and I'm speaking for myself personally, you want everything bad to happen to him that possibly could. In the world of due process, you have to prove that he broke the law, and that's a lot harder, obviously, than believing he broke the law.
That's funny. I think exactly the opposite.
Imagine
the other way.
This fantasy scenario, the Justice Department draws up a detailed indictment of Trump, a great talking indictment, and then Biden offers him a pardon for everything that's in that indictment.
Yeah,
is essentially asking him to confess to everything.
Yeah, and he probably won't take the bait, but
I mean, different from what Ford did, where he just issued a blanket pardon for anything that Nixon might have done. Imagine that Biden pardoned him for this laundry list of crimes.
If Biden supervises a successful, drawing down of the pandemic, then him pardoning Trump is an asterisk.
Yeah,
it will have no effect on the future.
What do you think about the rhetoric? Hopefully it's not just rhetoric, but Biden's acceptance speech and the focus on unity. Do you think there's substance in that? Is that partly why you think he might do this, that he's really going to try to create a kind of a middle in politics that marginalizes the Trumpists?
I think he totally believes that, Keith. But yesterday there were reports that that McConnell had already said that Biden had made too many mistakes. We're 2 days into his presidency, and he's already saying that Biden has made too many mistakes. So his reaching out for unity, I think, is exactly what he wants, but he's not going to get it.
I mean, look at the rhetoric for unity, and then look at the details of the agenda that he put forward. It's not a moderate agenda. It's a very bold agenda, and it is answering a great deal of what the left has been asking for.
Yeah, it's very bold. Have actual real press conferences. Wow.
And a plan,
no,
having a plan.
I'm talking about equity, racial equity across the board. I'm talking about his environmental program.
I'm not being sarcastic about I'm being sarcastic about the ease with which Biden can adopt a progressive stance while staying squarely in the middle. It
Right.
doesn't matter what the Republicans do about this. All of their noise about this is what we need is unity. Yeah, we need unity this week, but not last week, and not the week before, but
Right.
maybe the week before that. You know,
Yeah.
it's
And wasn't unity wasn't unity the drinking game of the Republicans recently? Every time they said the word unity.
Pre-Trump. I think the thing
Yeah.
you got to keep in mind is that time marches on. People change as time marches on, and circumstances change. And I think the nation has been brought so low for so many reasons over the last 5 years that almost anything that Biden can do is going to benefit a broad swath of Americans, including minorities and including high school educated white people in their middle years, and
including Republicans.
This is not a hard lift. He's got such a great opportunity to, what did Kennedy was famous for saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. That's absolutely true. And as a consequence of that, it will, I think, lead to the softening of opinion in the base, the Republican base of get off my lawn, old white guys.
okay. So Frank has to jump. So Frank, last thoughts.
Time memorial. That's all I have to say.
I don't know what that means.
That was a Firesign Theater line. Since time memorial. Anyway, I have nothing else to say. I think we've covered everything that I wanted to talk about, except for whether or not we thought that Cruz and Hawley were either going to be censured or expelled.
Oh,
Never got an answer to that. Let's do that as a poll.
No, okay.
Like expelled requires a 2/3 vote. Censure, I think, can be the majority. So
Yeah,
censure means
expelling
what?
is a very hard target to reach.
And censure is nonsense. Who cares?
I don't think anything's going to happen because, the accusation against them is that after the attack on the Capitol, they persisted in articulating that the election was not fair. I agree that they're being cynical in saying that, and they both know that the election was fair. But that said, they're perfectly entitled to their opinion. It's not.
Well, of course, there was the Hawley fist in the air in front of the crowd as they were coming into the Capitol. But in any case, there you go. That's it. I got nothing else. This has been a wonderful.
All right, I want to hear the other two votes before you leave.
All right,
Michael, yes or no?
Will
they be
I
expelled?
lost the question.
Will
I'm
they
sorry.
be expelled? Will they
Will they
be
be expelled? No, they're not going to be expelled.
Okay, Dennis.
Expelled, no. Censured, maybe. I think the thing to keep in mind is that both Texas and Missouri are trending purple, and unfortunately, it's a 6-year election cycle for senators. But I don't see either one of them being able to run for president in 24, and I think they could easily be wiped out in.
I think they cancel each other out. So whatever's going to happen, it's going to be the both of them, and what's going to happen is nothing. Thanks, Frank.
see you guys. Thank you a lot. I'll see you
Bye,
next
Frank.
Friday.
Great.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay, now what do we want to talk about?
Frank, let's talk about Frank.
Mhm. Talking about the context made me think about me and my 18-year-old son. And for the last 2 years, it's been a typical Oedipus complex relationship between me and him. And I thought for the longest time that if I just fought him, I could defeat him and he'd give in and become who I wanted him to be. And of course, the opposite is what happened. The more I fought him, the more he stubbornly became who he wanted to be. And I think that's, human, and I think that pertains to the Republican Party and Biden's unity talk. I think if we hate on the Trumpists, they'll become more Trumpist. If we try to do some good things that impact people's lives and focus on that, they might join the parade.
I agree with that. I think the key is going to be testing for the mutations. One of the announcements that Biden made yesterday was they're going to actually do the testing.
Yeah.
And the only way that this pandemic is going to be brought into some sense of control is going to be if they can identify mutation hotspots. Like, you were just in South Africa, so you're a hotspot, but I can talk with you on TV.
I'm hot. I don't know if I'm a spot.
I think you're bragging.
So
I think it's a hopeful brag, Dennis.
Dennis,
Yeah, what?
I interrupted you. You said you were about to say something. Maybe not.
Yeah, I was, but it's gone.
Okay. Michael, any last thoughts?
I've had the best night's sleep that I've had in 4 years.
Yeah.
Talking about South Africa, the one thing I'll tell you is getting there and getting back was a series of negative test hurdles at every border, with the sole exception of when I came back here. And even though I'm coming from South Africa and it was already known there was a variant, at San Francisco airport, we didn't even get asked a question.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that was one of the, I think that if their screening processes as defined by the announcements over the last 2 days.
Yeah, it's going to change. Yeah. No, it's going to be more like the rest of the world.
Right.
Yeah. And we see that, China is now having some resurgent issues. This is not going to go away, but on the other hand, they have the ability to be able to redevelop their economy within in the gaps between surges.
The Chinese GDP grew not quite 3%, whereas everyone else's declined significantly. So they've clearly done something right.
Yeah. Can I just also say that I think our vaccine strategy is extremely flawed for a couple of reasons. Number one, we're putting too much emphasis on vaccine as a silver bullet. And the fact that we can show that the virus is already mutating should give us concern, because the mutations are happening in the spike protein, which is what the vaccines build antibodies for. I think we're not spending enough time and attention on therapeutics, and we need to. Therapeutics being anything other than a vaccine that helps mitigate the severity of the disease. And one of the big problems inherent in that is that any therapeutic you develop has a very limited market. It's only going to be useful and prescribed until people get vaccinated. As a consequence of that, not enough companies are willing to invest in making therapeutics. So I think we need a government program where the government puts up some money, just like they put up money for vaccine development, to develop more robust therapeutics. The other thing I would say is that because these vaccines are only active against the spike protein, they are single-threaded and very, very easily overwhelmed by mutation. We need it's a little bit harder to do, but we need a whole virus vaccine. We need vaccines that develop antibodies not simply to the spike protein, but to anything else on the surface of the virus. And again, that's a thing that government should be investing in.
Well, the indications are that the plus side of this equation that you're talking about is that at a minimum, the vaccines as they are currently posited, and given the spread of mutations at this point, they can overwhelm the hospitalization curve and also the death curve. So, from getting back to the political thing for a second, if Biden's task as what he's betting his presidency on is success against the virus, maybe the investment that you're talking about needing to be made by the administration will be cheap compared to the results of failing at solving the virus.
I think you're right. We need what would normally, in other terms, be called a belts and braces solution.
There is a section on therapeutics in the plan. I don't know if you've had a chance to read the plan yet.
I'm not.
But
well, they did announce
there's a whole section for prioritizing therapeutics and establishing treatment discovery and development program. So it's not, they haven't ignored it, but it's clear that vaccine and PPE are the top priorities.
How much money did they put towards therapeutics?
I don't know if there's budget in the plan. The plan looks more like a talking plan.
All right.
So,
well, if they're thinking about therapeutics and they put money into it, that would be a really good thing.
Well, that was his one of his talking points on his first day in office, was about bolstering therapeutics. So, I mean,
I saw that.
Yeah.
Have you guys noticed there's been a couple of, and I don't want to feed any conspiracy theories here, so I'm going to caveat what I'm going to say with I believe in the vaccine, but there's been a couple of reports, one in Southern California, that the Moderna vaccine had some serious impact on a small number, but it led to the suspension of 330,000 vaccines because it was extreme enough. The reaction these people had to the vaccine was extreme enough for them to suspend using the rest, and that was the Moderna vaccine. And then somebody, and I've forgotten who, told me this week that the Pfizer vaccine in Denmark, they gave it to people in care homes first, and they had a very large number of deaths following the vaccine being given.
Yeah, but the data does not yet, or if at all, support that was causal, that there was a relationship.
Yeah, although it's kind of weird because it happened, there were so many so quickly that they...
Yeah. With regard to the Moderna vaccine, there was a piece in the paper today saying that the hold of 300,000 vials was taken off.
Okay.
They'd done the math homework and said, no, this is okay.
Obviously, there's always, I believe in taking the risk, but there's always a risk when you have to do something fast that you don't know everything about it. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Do you remember the movie Jurassic Park and Jeff Goldblum's character? Yeah. He kept saying, we don't know everything. There's going to be something here that blows up on us, and sure enough, that's what happened.
Yeah, well, it's Hollywood. We don't know what it is, but it's a sequel. That's all they care about.
But obviously, in recent history of even during our lives, there's been medical disasters caused by drugs that were initially thought to be very good. So this is not one of them, and I will be taking the vaccine. But you definitely have to pay attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that you? Are we wound down?
I am.
I am.
Dennis?
Oh, I could do this all day, but I think I hear a jackhammer behind or below Keith.
Yeah, you do. I'll put my mute on.
Well, that's
So maybe
all. Okay, I want to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gillmor. Thank you.
Aw, thank you. Nice job, guys.
yeah.
I want to thank Keith Teare, but he can't thank me back. Oh, visual. Wow. I want to thank Michael Markman.
I will thank you back.
And I'll thank the people that haven't been here and hopefully will return. Brent, Leary, thanks, Brent. And our thoughts are with you. And Frank Radice, he knows that our thoughts are with him. They always are. It's all about what he doesn't say. Just keep that in mind. And thanks to Denis Pombriant.
Pitchers and catchers, 4 weeks.
And the late great Hank Aaron, Hammering Hank, is he'll live
Gone.
forever.
Hey, Crack.
Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Crack, stop it.
All right.